I came across your channel, I was a silent listener at first. I wasn't going to share any of my experiences, but you make it feel like such a safe place to share, so here goes. I was a good kid, but my parents were super strict. They didn't know how good I was. They wouldn't budge on rules like curfew. It was 9 p.m. sharp, and homework had to be done Friday after school before I could enjoy my weekend. I couldn't go on dates with a boy alone. We had to go in a group. So when I turned 18, I did everything. I went wild. I worked in a tattoo parlor as an apprentice because tattoos always fascinated me, and I wasn't allowed to even associate with anyone who had ink. I dated a guy my parents would hate if they ever found out about. He had no set career. He had at least a dozen tattoos. He smoked cigarettes, and he came from a broken home. He was the sweetest, most gentle person, but that wouldn't matter to them. I was off in college, living in the dorms, so they had little to no information about my life, and it drove my mom crazy. She would constantly like my pictures on social media, call up my sister to see if I told her anything, and leave me daily voicemails if I didn't answer. When I did answer the phone, I kept it short and sweet. The tattoo parlor I worked at was about 3 blocks from campus, so I always walked to and from work. Another thing that would have absolutely drove my parents crazy. But I wasn't going to waste hundreds of dollars a month on Ubers to and from work. I was a college student. I needed all the money I made. One night, I was walking home from work. Like always, I had my pepper spray in my front jeans pocket, and I also had one in my book bag just in case. Other safety tools included a whistle my sister had bought me. It was actually a teeny whistle that worked just as well as a gym teacher's, and it was on a gold chain. I heard footsteps behind me this particular night, which was odd because this stretch had been pretty desolate. The previous nights I had had to walk home in the dark. It was near bar close, so it wasn't out of the realm of possibility that it was someone staggering home. I reached for my pepper spray, keeping my hand in my pocket in case I needed it. I picked up the pace as I sensed the person lingering behind me. Their footsteps quickened to match mine. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I was definitely on high alert. My shoe came untied, and I nearly tripped because I kept walking a few steps, not wanting to stop and give the person behind me an advantage. Shoot, of course this would happen right now, I thought. I had no choice, but luckily it's a college town. There are many benches around, and there was one a few feet ahead of me. At least it looked more natural than stopping in the middle of the sidewalk. But when I sat down and casually glanced up, there was no one around. There wasn't a soul to be found. Did they duck off that fast? If so, why? I thought to myself. Shoe retied, I decided to jog home, but as I was standing up, I saw someone out of the corner of my eye. It was a man, and he was approaching me. In that moment, I was very aware of how short and skinny and non-muscular I was. I ran my finger over the trigger of the pepper spray, just to reassure myself it was there. When I stood up, he was nearly over to me. He stopped about 10 feet away, looking straight at me. I realized in that moment that he looked really roughed up. His head had a cut on it, his arms had bruising and small cuts, and he looked upset. "Can I help you?" I asked, against my better judgment. But my humanity kicked in. I was apprehensive, but this man clearly could probably use some help. He didn't say a word. He just looked at me like I was crazy, turned and walked away. I didn't wait around. I started on my way home. On the way, I called the non-emergency number and told them there was a man wandering around, that he looked beat up, but that I didn't feel safe sticking around alone with him. They assured me they would go check it out and give me a call to let me know it was taken care of. I was home just a few minutes before the officer called to say the area was cleared. Whatever he was up to, he was long gone when they got there. A few nights later, I was again walking home from a late shift when I felt a presence behind me. Not again. What's with the creeps this week? I thought, reaching to make sure my pepper spray was in place, but it wasn't. I had left it in my cubby at work where I put it when I walked in the door each day. Great, just great, I whispered out loud, remembering there's a backup in my backpack, but it could be impossible to get to it in time if I were attacked. This time I turned around when a man's voice yelled out, "Help! Miss, please!" Against everything I've read about late-night encounters in the news lately, I turned around. I nearly fainted when I saw the same man as the other night, in the same clothes, with the same head injury and other wounds. I stammered, but a full sentence would not leave my lips. "I'll call 911, I finally said. But in the split second that I had looked down to fumble with my phone that was seemingly stuck in my pocket, he was gone. This time I searched the area. I wanted answers. I was no longer afraid of being hurt. I was annoyed and intrigued at the same time. There was no way he was wandering around in the same clothes for nearly 4 days. He would have been helped by someone or have passed out from the blood loss or something by now. I walked around, probably looking crazy, for about half an hour, absolutely confused and irritated, before finally giving up and going home. I couldn't let it go. I started looking up the streets near the area I encountered him, and I was shocked to find out that 6 years prior, there was a deadly accident. A man had too many drinks at the bar, got into his car to drive home, and wrapped it around a telephone pole. He passed away instantly. I walked that stretch many times in the year and a half I worked at the tattoo parlor, and I saw him many more times. Prior to this, I had never experienced anything paranormal, so this was definitely an eye-opener. I have still never experienced something like it, and I know I'll never forget it. I've heard similar stories happening, but I've never had it happen to me. The way you describe the fear you felt in those moments makes it so real to the rest of us. Thanks for sharing your story, and I'm actually glad it was just a ghost and not anyone with bad intentions. And thank you for your kind words. I aim to create a safe space for everyone to share their paranormal experiences. If you have a paranormal story to share, email it to the address in the description below. Please like the video and subscribe if you haven't. I hope you all had a safe and happy New Year's Eve celebration. And with that, see you tomorrow, friends.